stories and how they have been motivated to make a difference in our world. This morning, we would like to welcome to the stage Miss Erin Cavanaugh and Miss Shannon O'Neill. Erin graduated from Dover-Sherburne High School in 2008. Erin and Shannon met while studying abroad in college, and after graduating, knew they wanted to see more of the world. They traveled for 2 years, visiting several different countries and meeting all kinds of unique people. They recently returned to the United States and are excited to share some of their experiences with us here today.
That is a traditional Thai greeting that means both hello and goodbye.
And these are traditional Thai materials and patterns.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Erin. This is Shannon. We're very excited to be here today, so thank you for having us. 12 years ago, I sat exactly where you are right now as an 8th grader at this assembly, so it's an absolute honor to be back here today and to be able to share with you some of our experiences. In honor of Martin Luther King Jr., the theme for today is Be the Change You Wish to See in the World. So as Shannon and I talk about our trip, we will keep coming back to that message as we share with you some of the things that we've learned.
About 3.5 years ago, Erin and I both graduated from college. It was expected at this time that we would move on to full-time jobs in a field related to our degrees. As we watched our friends take this next step, we started to ask ourselves a really important question, a question that would ultimately change the course of our lives. What kind of a life did we want to live? And maybe more importantly than that, what kind of people did we actually want to be? Now, suddenly college graduation didn't make us feel so old and mature anymore. It made us feel like we needed to do something, perhaps make some sort of grand gesture that would mark our place in this world. And so, instead of packing a lunch and going to work, Erin and I packed a backpack and we left for a journey that would ultimately last 2 years, span across 3 continents, and into 10 very different countries.
We started off in New York, then we flew to Hawaii, then on over to New Zealand, Australia, Indonesia, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, the United Arab Emirates, and lastly Ireland, before returning back to New York. So ultimately, the reason we embarked on this journey was to learn more about ourselves, because in order to change the world for the better, it must first start with you. We learned that in order to reach your fullest potential, you must take risks. So this is a photo of us during a 4-day overnight sail up the coast of New Zealand. Believe it or not, Shannon had never even been on a boat before, and all of a sudden we found ourselves harnessed in, climbing up to the masts, rigging the sails, swaying back and forth in the winds of a tropical storm and encountering 9-foot waves. Our adrenaline was pumping, but it ended up being one of the most memorable experiences of the whole trip.
Another way that we can reach our fullest potential is to always challenge ourselves, because without challenges, it's impossible to know what we are really truly capable of. This is a photo of us hiking an active volcano in New Zealand. Now, I'm not sure if there are any Lord of the Rings fans in here. I know I am myself, yeah. If you look closely, that's actually Mount Doom in the background.
Finally, trust yourself. Trusting yourself will allow you to take on these risks and accept these challenges, because most of the time, we are far more capable than we give ourselves credit for. This is a photo of us at a yoga and meditation retreat in northern Thailand.
So throughout our travels, Erin and I had many different experiences that tested different aspects of who we are. We began to understand that life is complex. The decisions that I, as an individual, make affect the individuals that are around me. The individuals that are around me affect the individuals that are around them, and so on. We began to understand that the person we become is a direct result of the kind of choices that we make. Now, it's easy to say, do the right thing, and I can actually hear my mother's voice in my ears as I say, I know you'll make the right decision. But in reality, sometimes these decisions are not so easy to come by. So it's important that we use the tools that are available to us in the decision-making process. Let me give you an example. In Thailand, Erin and I knew that we wanted to play with elephants. We had seen countless photographs of tourists riding off into the sunset on the back of elephants with pure joy plastered onto their faces, and we just knew. That has got to be us. The only problem was we didn't know anything about the tourist trade in Thailand. So what did we do? We Googled it. And after spending about 5 minutes on Google, we quickly realized the horrors of elephant riding. Oftentimes, these elephants are trapped in riding camps where they're really badly abused. So we were horrified with ourselves for even considering participating in something like this. And that was when Google brought us to Lek. Lek is a Thai woman who has seen firsthand the horrors of elephant riding. She made a vow to herself and to her community that she would do everything that she could to put a stop to this. And so Lek raised money to open Elephant Nature Park. Elephant Nature Park is a place where rescued elephants can go to live out the rest of their days in a happy and safe environment. So no, we did not ride off into the sunset on the back of an elephant. Instead, we chose to walk amongst them.
So at first, Lek could only afford to rescue one elephant, but as more and more people heard about what she was doing and decided to support her, 1 turned into 5, 5 turned into 10, and today she has managed to rescue 38 elephants at her park. But imagine if every single tourist decided to support her. She could have 308 elephants rescued at her park. So the point is that by putting a small amount of effort into our decision making, we were able to make a positive effect to a lasting cause.
Another very important lesson that Erin and I learned on our trip, and I think probably the most important one, is to be open to others regardless of our obvious differences. You see, at first, our lives as Americans seemed so entirely different from the lives of people we were meeting from Indonesia or from Japan. But after we started having a conversation, we suddenly realized that we have so much more in common with each other than we do have differences. Amazingly, this human experience is similar all over the world, okay? All people share joys from love, grief from loss, laughters from childhood, and ultimately, the fears and expectations we face when growing up. Just like that, these individuals went from being strangers to being people and friends that we could actually relate to. In Vietnam, Erin and I embarked on a 22-mile hike deep into the mountains to spend the night with the Red Dao Hill Tribe people. Now, we were a little bit nervous at first because we had read that the Red Dao live traditionally as their ancestors have lived for hundreds of years. So again, it was really difficult for us to imagine going into a home that didn't have electricity, that didn't have hot water, that didn't have comfortable Western pillowcases or mattresses, or even Wi-Fi, obviously. And when we first arrived at the Red Dao home, we were a little bit hesitant with one another. You know, we couldn't speak each other's language, and it was a little bit awkward, but we did share one thing in common. We were all so hungry. So what did we do? We prepared dinner together, and through patience and hand gestures, we laughed over a meal that we shared because we didn't really know what the other was saying, but we could sort of figure it out by the way that we were moving and with a little bit of kindness. So we left the next morning with heavy hearts as we said goodbye to our new friends. We learned that night that sometimes words are not always necessary.
So throughout the duration of the trip, I created this little project where I asked the same question to about 60 different people of all different backgrounds and all different ages, because I believe that learning from others is the best way to learn. So the question I asked was, what is the most important thing you've learned in your life thus far? I received so many unique answers, and I'd like to share a few of them with you. So the first one is from Natalie. She's 26 from Maryland, and she says, there's only one you in this world, so stop comparing yourself to everyone else. There will always be someone who's smarter, prettier, more talented, etc. But it's unhealthy to worry about that, and they aren't you.
Erin's next answer comes from a 67-year-old man named Bob from New Zealand. Bob says that you have not lived until you have loved. A person, an animal, or both if you're lucky, and have been loved in return.
Mito, a 29-year-old from Japan, said that the most important thing she has learned in her life thus far is to be honest with herself.
Our friend Pei from Vietnam says, the most important thing I've learned is to speak another language and to be friendly with people around the world.
And lastly, our 49-year-old friend Bood from Thailand said the most important thing I've learned in my life thus far is that all things are connected. Nothing ever changes on its own. No form of violence will ever fix a problem. Yoga is a practice of self-love. We all have the power to choose to be a better person.
And with that, we'd like to leave you with one last thought. Change is defined as the act or instance of making or becoming different. It is not defined by size. In fact, being the change can be quite simple. It doesn't have to be as grand a gesture as opening an elephant rescue park. And oftentimes, change comes about from small gestures. For example, a smile shared with a stranger. This is a photograph of a rice farmer in the rural village we lived in Thailand. We passed him every single day on our bicycles. And though we could never speak to one another because of our language barrier, we always exchanged friendly looks. It can be as simple as helping a neighbor plant a garden. It can be as simple as believing in each other. This is a test we gave to one of our students while we were teaching in Thailand. Our student writes, I can do anything. Nothing is impossible. We empower each other when we believe in one another.
So remember, everyone can do something to make this world a better place. Believe in yourself, believe in the good of others, and find your power. We are all crucial members of our community. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Sawadee-ka.
Thank you so much, Shannon and Erin. We appreciate you being here. And in the spirit of yoga being a practice of self-love and the message, trust yourself, I'd like to invite Ms. Draper, Emily, Izzy, and Kizzy